Hello and welcome back to the One Shot Show, where GMs go to level up. I don't have a bit. I don't have an opening gimmick. I'm sorry, we're just going to have to get right into this with no setup, with no preamble, with nothing signposted, laid out in advance.
There's nothing at the end of the episode you want to talk about now, even in oblique terms?
Avocados.
Oh, I see. What?
That will come up later.
That goes down into my notebook with a big question mark.
Avocados?
I look back on it every session. I go what was that about? Makes me angry.
And we better hope that comes up now, because otherwise I'm going to look like quite a fool. And that's because I don't believe in foreshadowing, Patty.
Absolutely huge statement.
I think foreshadowing is bullshit. Foreshadowing is complete and utter bullshit.
The statement
right?
grows.
When you say, I have talked about this on the show previously. I mentioned when we were kind of talking about narrative continuity, when we've talked about concepts like that, I have at times, I think this was before your time, I mentioned that you don't actually have to worry about foreshadowing because your players will retroactively, in their minds, cast shadows that were never there, right? They will imagine the shadows for you. You do not need to foreshadow, right? And sometimes you even find yourself in a situation where you come up with an idea and you realize that you said something 2 sessions ago that's going to make it sound like you planned this, right? Without being woo about it, it's almost like let yourself be open to the energy of the universe. Just stop fucking worrying about foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is bullshit. It's not real. It doesn't exist. It doesn't do anything for you. Our timer hasn't actually started, I just noticed. And if you get caught up on foreshadowing, what you're actually going to do is you're going to miss out on interesting opportunities because you're too busy trying to work backwards from something predetermined. We actually talked a little bit about this in a previous episode where sometimes if you have an overly strong North Star for the final big things or some of the overly major things, and I say this as somebody who includes big picture forces at play in my campaigns, but I don't have our guy. I don't have the evil sorcerer Malkador is slowly formulating his plans in the blasted wastes. I don't do that, right? At most, I'm going to say, there are those with more sinister ambitions around the state of the world, right? And I just let it emerge naturally over the course of the campaign because that is actually going to align far better to the narrative that has, in fact, played out so far.
And I feel like it aligns, I'm slowly onboarding to the statement. I'd say, it aligns with the kind of chaos that occurs in the way that a story is told at a D&D table.
We talk about often D&D and other TTRPGs as being collaborative storytelling, right? Which means you don't fucking know at the start what the story's going to be. How could you ever foreshadow something? Are you insane?
Yeah, and there are things that can happen in a D&D game that will either upset the apple cart of what comes ahead, or all of a sudden the players have access to way more information than you ever intended in the way that you plotted your narrative out. You're not like a screenwriter. You can't choose always when every beat of information is going to be laid out on the path toward solving a mystery or moving toward a big threat.
They might just miss something. Or they might come across, genuinely, they might just come across the thing that in your mind is this beautiful, dastardly nugget that will hint at where things are going. And your players think it sucks. Yeah. And they find it boring. And it is clear that they are not interested in pursuing that any further.
Or it's even if it's not the boring thing, it's just it's water off a duck's back, and then you keep going, that was it. That was the most important piece. That was the most important piece of information. It was meant to be the thing that would kick you off on this on this next bit of your pathway.
And then you just end up like a self-sucking artist going my foreshadowing.
And I always find it very sad. It's one of my least favorite modes to have to be in is the GM, which is when you say to a player, you realize, and then you have to click all the pieces in one after the other. It's sometimes it happens, but my wish is always for the realization to come to the player, and a player will, I find, often come up with a better joining together of the dots, the breadcrumbs that have been laid out than what I've come up with.
Oh my God, that's a great idea.
That's such a better idea than my thing.
And because I didn't get too lost in the weeds of the details, I can just...
And you can pick up on. Yeah, absolutely.
My final villain is just a ball of plasticine vaguely in the shape of a man, and that means that when my players say something theoretical about them that is way cooler than what I've thought of, I just reshape the ball of plasticine vaguely into the shape of a dragon.
And it gives the players that feeling that you're aiming for, that feeling of like when a main character in the film, when Dr. House puts together all of the clues and then he realizes the statement, you can honor a player's improvised instinct, even if their thing isn't precisely what you put together. If their idea is better, you can turn that into that Dr. House moment, which gives that player that sense of satisfaction and mastery.
In fact, the other thing, I mean, is this a different topic now almost that gets can of worms for us? That also presents opportunities for subversion. If the players, like genuinely, if you were kind of thinking like, all right, I'm going to see if I can lay this thing up and I'm going to drop a subtle crumb, and then your players clock it instantly, and they have it all the way figured out, all right, change of plans. Yeah. Now we're going to subvert that a little bit. Not necessarily all the way, just a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's also it. And again, I've left myself the opportunity to do that because I'm not sitting there going, here is the fully formed thing, and I must lean up towards it. Now, here's what isn't bullshit, Patty. Signposting. Signposting is extremely important. Signposting is all about setting expectations. And we talk about this a lot, right? If the players roll into town just looking to get involved in whatever the hell's going on, and they are expecting something a little bit hack and slash, they're expecting something a little bit monster of the week, then when they get assigned, oh yes, this noble is hiring you as a bodyguard, they are in their minds expecting, they might get attacked, there might be something dangerous around their situation, so we're probably going to have to defend them in a fight, right? They're expecting that on some level, right? I know it's a little bit of a meta level, but they're expecting it. And then you escort them to a ball and you stand there at the ball all evening and seemingly nothing happens. That's because you're not in hack and slash, baby. You're in political intrigue. But if you, the GM, haven't signposted that correctly, they're not going to know what to expect. They're not going to be able...
They'll be waiting for the vampire. They'll be waiting for the...
Exactly. They're not going to be able to play their way through the game. Now, that is why I distinguish those two things. Because one, this idea of foreshadowing, it's bullshit. And it's bullshit because it is trying to relate to narrative. Signposting is important because it is relating to gameplay. Yeah. It actually exists on the meta level, saying, here's the kind of game that it's about to be. Get yourselves ready.
The implication of signposting as well is it's literally like it's a sign. It's like if you follow this, we'll end up somewhere over here.
Exactly. Pirate arc this way.
Yeah. It's grounded in the present moment that you're presenting as the GM as opposed to an indeterminate, but if you foreshadow it too hard, fixed moment in the future that then binds the rest of the campaign to that thing. Yeah. Yeah, that really makes sense to me.
Narrative conceits that don't map.
Yeah, when this was raised as a topic, I was like, oh, this reminds me of a couple of other narrative techniques that I've seen work so well, either in novels or in film or in television or in theater, that I go, actually... When I've tried them at the TTRPG table, there's something about like the magic of what happens at that table that subverts the magic of this narrative trope. I was thinking about this in terms of flashbacks and flash forwards, because an important flashback or an important flash forward that contains like something really core to a story in many of these other forms, I find it hard to include a super important flashback in a TTRPG story. Because of the way that dice work, anything could happen in that flashback.
And if they roll like a couple of ones at moments that were meant to set up a key piece of what is at that point, they're already laid out predetermined backstory. Yeah. And now their backstory makes no sense.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself in that position, right?
Or all of a sudden, like something that was meant to be very like serious, impactful moment in the past. It's a TTRPG table. You can't guarantee that tonally that thing's going to continue that way. Yeah. And it's like, there's lots of things. I found it can be more immersion breaking than immersion building. Yeah. And then similarly, like flash forward is something so I have a friend who's got this this campaign idea that he's been tinkering for a long time, but he always struggles with the part of the conceit because he really wants a thing of like it's 5 adventurers sitting around a table talking about the adventures that they've been on in the past, but then we come up against the come up against the thing of like, so where's the tension of threat? If we establish that everybody makes it through this gamut of their lives, there is, it's so fascinating. It doesn't account for the roll of the dice, which feels like similarly to your argument of foreshadowing, you need to account for the roll of the dice in everything that you design at a TTRPG table.
And I think it's because fundamentally, so much of the narrative that actually takes place at the table is after the fact. Like, I know that we are unfolding it in the moment, but what it becomes in our minds, the story that it actually forms, is one that is formed after the fact. It's what I've talked about when we've talked about the 3 layers of storytelling, where sometimes what you were doing as the GM is sort of like editorializing, going snip, snip, snip. You know, you have a funny beat at the table and you're like, ha, 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 okay, it doesn't actually go down like this, it goes down like this. We edit it in our minds so that we all have this similar contiguous story, but it is retroactive.
Yeah.
It is after the fact.
It's often in the recap. It's in the recap. It's like, and now from all of that chaos, here was the story that I saw emerge. Sometimes a player will throw in another note. If the players are recapping, even better for you, because you go, this is the story that you heard, and now I can respond to that moment.
Yeah. I'm even going to go a level further than this, and I know this goes a little bit outside of the purview of what we often talk about on the show, but I actually think this is even true in conventional literature. I know that what we're kind of talking about here are like things in literature and in storytelling that don't necessarily map to TTRPG, even though it is a storytelling medium, because it is a different kind of medium. In the same way that, you know, flashbacks and flash forwards, they work really great in film, they can work really great in a novel, they don't work well in a TTRPG. I actually think foreshadowing is bullshit in literature as well. I think it can kind of work in a film because you can do a lot of things visually with the frame. Like, for example, if somebody, you know, if the shot on them is like really tight and they're close into the center and then they get shot to death, it's like, well, yeah, because the walls were literally closing in on them, right? Like, it's visual language. But even then, I don't know that it's foreshadowing so much as it's visual language, because it's not like that happens 3 scenes beforehand. It happens like in the scene, maybe a few seconds before the thing goes down. Can I even call that foreshadowing, or is it just a storytelling device, right? Is that any different to saying the energy in the room shifted in a book 3 paragraphs before somebody gets killed, right? I actually think foreshadowing is bullshit in most storytelling mediums. Foreshadowing is your fucking English teacher talking about how the curtains reflect, how they were depressed at the time, and the author's thinking, well, the curtains were blue, right? That. Now, look, sometimes, the curtains do reflect their mood. I do not want to get too destructive about that whole thing. That's a whole other web that I do not want to climb over currently. However, foreshadowing is bullshit. Foreshadowing is something readers do because they do the same thing that your players are doing in your TTRPG games, where they imagine the shadows on the wall after the fact. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, because it makes the story more real to them. It makes it feel more enmeshed, more clever, more intricately told than it actually was. But no writer, outside of like very specific literary approaches, no writer is like sitting there going like, and I will include this waterfall as a background detail to subtly allude to and foreshadow the fact that in 2 chapters' time there's going to be a great big flood that is going to cave in the roof of the place they live. No, they're not doing that. That's not what the waterfall is. It's just a fucking waterfall. You know what is foreshadowing it? Foreshadowing, quote unquote, is at the start of that chapter where it opens with the line, the rain fell heavy on the tin roof. Foreshadowing's fucking bullshit.
Well, the statement has been made. I think we've unpacked. I think there's I think that was a great unpack. I think it's also just so useful as a GM to lock in that thing of if you lean too hard on that, language, if you lean too hard on that device, you'll probably paint yourself into a corner that you cannot get out of.
Exactly. The shadows may yet consume you. Well, that does us for that episode of the One Shot Show. This has been... I love it when I just get to shout into the microphone. This has been a wonderful time, and we'll see you in the next one. Have we got it? Are we done? Are we out? Do you know a good place to buy cheap avocados?
This time of year?
I got like a Mexican thing coming up on the weekend. I need to make some guac.
I'm not a fan.
Not a fan? Of
Mexicans
or Mexican food?
Did you say them at the beginning, or did I?
If you enjoyed that episode of the One Shot Show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/one-shot-show. You'll see all of the offerings available. You can commission custom episodes. You can get video versions of our regular weekly episodes. You can get monthly bonus episodes where we deep dive into particular topics. You can submit questions for our regular Q&A format. And we have a new offering that we're going to be launching this month, where at the end of each month, we will do a live Q&A session in our Discord server talking about the episodes from the most recent month. Also, for the next 3 months, anyone who backs us on Patreon will get 5 complimentary invites to our Discord server as we grow that community further. Please check it out and please support the show.